All right, TV Talk fans, very exciting right now. We've got Karan Soni in from Miracle Workers. Karan, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for dropping by.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. Miracle Workers, very, very funny show.
Thanks.
If anyone out there doesn't really know the premise yet, you're angels working for God.
Right.
And God doesn't really like doing his job much.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's kind of from the mind of Simon Rich, and he basically imagined heaven in the show as a poorly run company. So the earth is what the heaven is meant to make sure it runs smoothly. God is the CEO. The archangel, which is me, is God's assistant. So it's just kind of imagining. People think it's kind of a satire on religion, but it's not really at all. We don't really bring up religion. It's more so Simon's version of seeing a company that's too large to function, and him kind of satirizing corporate culture through this idea of heaven. So yeah, all the angels, they try to keep the earth running smoothly. God has kind of made this planet, and then he's kind of given up on it because it's grown way too fast for him to even handle. And so it's just all the crazy stuff that's happening on our planet is because of these people up there not knowing what to do. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and you mentioned you play the Archangel, and he's slightly pompous. Is that a good way to describe him?
Yeah, more than slightly, I think. Yeah. He's kind of the story of my character is kind of interesting because he always wanted to have this job. It's kind of the most coveted job an angel can have, which is working directly with God. But, very few people know that actually God is just hiding in his office, kind of a mess. And so he gets this job and he's really excited. And then he quickly realizes that it's a horrible job and it's essentially just babysitting a child. But he's trying to hide that to the rest of the company by just pretending like he really is doing the most important work ever. And so he really overcompensates for how sad his life is.
Yeah, there's a really funny episode when you've got a TV crew following you around.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And there's, without getting too much into it, there's some jobs that you don't want them to film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's a really funny series. How is it working with Steve Buscemi, who's playing this absent CEO that is God?
Yeah, I mean, it's really working with Steve is kind of, honestly, it's cliche, but it's kind of everything you want it to be. Like, he's very kind, very nice. He loves acting, which I know is a weird thing to say, but sometimes like you just feel like someone who's been doing it for so long, like they've maybe become jaded or something. But he genuinely like loved working on this show, and so it's just really nice to kind of have this legend who enjoys coming to work and enjoys still like acting and doing stuff with you and playing around. And it's kind of such a fun role, and he just like leaned into it, and he was having like the time of his life, and he was really kind. My parents visited a few times on the set because we filmed in Atlanta. They live in Georgia. The first time they visited, we were filming a scene and Steve wasn't in it, and my parents just walked into the soundstage, and we were kind of far off somewhere, and he knew that my parents were coming, and he just took care of them, took them to craft services, this whole thing, and he was in the wig, and my parents didn't recognize him, and afterwards they're like, yeah, this guy like helped us out. I'm like, that's the start of the show. But that's just him, you know what I mean? Like, he's just so kind and sweet and great. Yeah.
That's really fun. That's really fun. And then the other star that's in the show is one of your other angels, Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's really interesting. How is it working, like seeing someone, I mean, you're in a really big franchise on your own right now, but seeing someone that, Harry Potter, that's deciding to come and play in this really fun sandbox of a bunch of people pretending to be angels in a corporate hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's a detraction, to say the least, from what his normal life is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan of the books first and then the movies. Like, growing up, that was like the one thing that, I mean, I never read a Deadpool comic. I've said it publicly. I'm sorry, but I just fell into it. But like, Harry Potter to me was like, a big part of my childhood. And so it was really crazy, like, to get to work with him. And he luckily is very open to talking about Harry Potter.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
When we were filming the show, HBO Go had just gotten all the movies. So every Sunday I would watch a movie and I would literally write notes in my phone. And then Monday I would be like, how did you film the Quidditch in this movie? And how did that? And he would just give me all this behind the scenes stuff. And as a fan, it was like truly, like, I just was eating it up.
Just completely geeking out with him.
Yeah, and it's the best because he kind of realizes, I think, that it means so much to so many people, and he doesn't he's more than willing to talk about it, and it's kind of great because then you don't have to feel shy around him bringing it up and stuff. But yeah.
That's really funny. I'm glad to hear that was made for a very interesting dynamic on set.
Yeah, it's also really fascinating to see him in public because, I mean, it makes, I thought I was a big fan, but I was like, nope. I mean, I didn't start crying the moment I saw him. People just really go wild for it still, for him, because I guess he's just the face of so many people's childhood.
That makes sense. It would have been that would have been a little weird if you'd started crying when you first met him.
Yeah, because I met him at the audition the first time. That would have been really bad.
Yeah, that was actually, I was going to ask you how you came about to being in this show. So you auditioned for the role?
I did. Yeah, I auditioned first just with the casting director who had cast me in a bunch of stuff before, and so I just went in for it, and then a week's kind of went by, and they had only given me the first script, and honestly, Simon's writing, it was the first time I had read his writing. I'd watched Man Seeking Woman, but to read his stuff on paper is kind of amazing, because most scripts kind of read a little bland, because they're meant to be filmed. There's just nothing that exciting about reading a script, but his stuff is really fun to read. I just reread them for fun sometimes, which is rare with a script. And so I just thought that pilot script was amazing, and then I really kind of wanted it, and then a few weeks went by, and then they were waiting for Dan to be back in LA, and then we all had to kind of read with him, the Eliza and my character actors, and then that's the first time I met him. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really cool. So you and Simon didn't know each other before this at all?
I didn't know kind of anyone on this one. No one in Broadway Video who produced the show hadn't worked with any of those people. But yeah.
But that's very cool because you have a very extensive comedy background.
Oh,
I think at this point it's really interesting. I mean, I think the first time I remember seeing you in Safety Not Guaranteed.
Yeah, that was my second job in Hollywood.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I was actually getting ready to quit before that job. I mean, it's not even. Yeah. I had planned to quit, and then a week before, because I was in college when I got that job, and I was graduating from USC, and I'd had an agent for 2 years, and I had just been rejected week after week, and everyone kind of kept telling you in theater school that that's just what it is. It's really hard, and I was like, yeah, great. And then when you're actually in it, and none of my friends in school had agents, so I couldn't see them getting rejected also. So it was just me going out week after week and getting rejected, and I just remember thinking maybe this is not really meant to be, and I was just kind of really down on myself. And then I hadn't really gotten anything. I got a TV movie for MTV called Worst Prom Ever, which was not the best creative experience. And so the whole thing was kind of just I was just really down on myself. And I had gotten a kind of a job offer at a place that had interned at a film production company. And I was like, great, I'll just go into the behind the scenes part of it and still be in the business. And I was getting ready to do that and graduating in May, and my parents were coming down for graduation. And then this movie just showed up, and I had auditioned for it 5-6 times, and then finally they gave me the job, and that was the last day of April of that year. And so I had to leave for a month to go to Seattle the next day, and that meant missing my finals, missing my college graduation, and kind of missing all of that stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to decide. This is a crossroads moment. Either I'm going to finish my finals and graduate from this thing and commit to this job that I've said yes to, or I'm just going to throw it all away and make an independent movie with, at the time, Mark Duplass, Aubrey Plaza, and Jake Johnson weren't household names necessarily. So I didn't know who any of them were. And so it just felt like this crazy thing, but then it kind of worked out really well.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, because that's still one of my favorite things that I've been in.
I mean, it's a very impressive film if you haven't gone out and seen it. And obviously, everyone involved, yourself included, they've all skyrocketed. Because not long after that, you got Betas, which I was a big fan of.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thanks.
Yeah. I was a big fan of Betas. That was one of the original Amazon shows.
Yeah,
before they had any idea what they were doing.
John Goodman show. Yeah, it was really, really new, and it's so crazy to me now when people talk about Amazon all the time. Because I used to be like, guys, watch it on Amazon. And they were like, what?
How do you do that?
But yeah, it's kind of taken on a life of its own now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Service. Yeah.
It was a more earnest version of the Silicon Valley story.
That's right. It was right before the show Silicon Valley. And it gets compared a lot, but it is very different to that, I think, our show. And but yeah, it definitely has its fans out there for sure.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big one too, because that's when I got that pilot, I was able to quit my restaurant job. So also a monumental
Yes.
time in an actor's life.
Yes, you put the waiting tables behind
That's
you
right.
and move on.
I specifically did that pilot, and the money from the pilot was enough to like hold me over for like a few months. And I was like, you know what, this soul-sucking job, like at this restaurant, I'm leaving it. Like I'm just gonna hope that this gets picked up, and I just don't have to look back. And so I went to my manager, and I was at the restaurant, and I was like, you know, I think I got a pilot, like I'm done. And he's like, what channel? And I was like, oh. And I was like, Amazon? He's like, no, but like, what channel is it on? I was like, Jesus Christ, like, what am I doing? I should have just lied and been like CBS or something. I don't know. But anyways, he said to me, he's like, you'll come back. They all come back. And so I was like, God, I hope this gets picked up because I don't want to like beg for this job again.
Well, yeah. And then from there, you did Deadpool.
That's right.
Which was that tiny little movie.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you probably thought it was, I mean, everyone, I think the first time around was probably a little bit small in terms of.
It was very small. Yeah. And actually I did Ghostbusters literally right after Deadpool. And I remember getting on the set for Ghostbusters and being like, this is the biggest thing I've ever, like it was just, that felt like a big movie.
Yeah.
And the first Deadpool really, it made it feel even smaller to like do Deadpool. And it was really, really not a big thing. Like you could just sense that, you know, that they were not spending a lot of money on it and everything, and everyone, but it kind of had this like kind of indie spirit to it because of that. Like everyone was just so excited on the set that it was like happening, and I didn't know what Deadpool was or anything, and so when I read the script, I was like, this is amazing, but I was like, I don't think this is gonna do that well because it just seemed like, I just remember looking at R-rated movie box office grosses and being like, this isn't that impressive. And then it kind of broke all those records, so who knew that was going to happen? But I just remember like thinking like, oh, if this movie makes like 200 million worldwide, that'll be a huge deal. Like it'll be like we'll get to make a second one. And then I remember like it made 260 the first 3 days. And I just remember thinking like, what happened here? Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Yeah.
Except maybe Ryan.
Yeah, but I don't even think at that level he saw it coming. He's the one who told me if this movie makes 200 or 250, I can't remember. He's like, it'll be so good if we are able to cross that line. Wow. I remember thinking like, that's a low number for like a superhero movie. But I was like, I guess we're just playing in the smaller like field or whatever. Sure. And then I remember emailing him because I specifically remember he had said that number like 250. And then when we had made 260, I'm like, so like, is this a good thing? And he's like, yeah, buddy. Like we're set. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And then, I mean, you got a lot more fun stuff to do in the sequel.
That's right. Yeah, which was so great. I got that script the day before filming.
Really?
So when people ask me about Deadpool 3 or anything else, I'm like, I literally will not know until, I got it the day before filming. And I just remember, because it was so secretive, and I just remember being like, each time I was like, holy shit, and I get to do this and that and this. And I was like, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you make it through.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah. So I think it's interesting with Miracle Workers because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, this seems like one of the first roles you get to play someone that doesn't get pushed around as much.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like between betas to a certain degree and Blunt Talk and Deadpool, it seems like this is the one where you kind of get to stand up and say, I get to direct what I'm going to do with my life, or your afterlife in this case. Yeah,
no, it was awesome because it's kind of fun to play someone who's just so blindly confident. Because I mean, I remember one of my favorite scenes is walking in the second episode to the Department of Genitals and just being like, I own the place. And something is just like really fun about playing like something like that. And so, yeah, it's really fun. I feel like there's probably a lot of fun gags around that set when you talk about Department of Genitals and all the different corporate languages around the afterlife. There seems to be there's probably a few random. Are there a lot of practical sets there? Yeah. So we filmed in a abandoned fiber optics factory. Okay. So a lot of it was already existing. This is a place outside of Atlanta, which this fiber optics company left because I guess fiber optics is done now or something. I don't know what that even is, but that's what everyone was saying, that it's like not a thing anymore. But it's this huge, massive space, and they started filming the Hunger Games there back when the Hunger Games started in Atlanta. Yes. So that's kind of what it was used for, post-apocalyptic kind of place. And then since then, like a few like Fast and Furious like movies like that have filmed there. And then we kind of came in, and I think Simon saw like the space, and he was like, "This is it! Like it's like an abandoned factory," which is just very depressing looking. And so a lot of the weird stuff was already there. And then the art department did a great job of just like little things like that they added everywhere, which Some of them you can't even really see on the show, but we would see them every day, like especially in the answered prayer set. There's like just all these buttons. Like there's an appendix button that's like very like front and center, but there's like a mosquito bite button and like all these like very kind of random things that you're just like, wow, there's a lot of work that's been put into this.
Yeah, I love the like the 80s technical aesthetic that they did.
Yeah, Simon's idea was kind of that like Earth started with like this set amount of human beings, and now it's just become so many people that we just haven't had a chance to like take a day off and refurbish. So all the technology is like the old technology, because like the planet is just moving and there's just so many prayers that we just don't have any time to like just close it down for a day and like restart like the computers or do anything. So everything has this kind of like old school like vibe to it. Yeah,
that's very It makes for a very fun visual as you're watching the show, which I think is really interesting. So. Is there anything? So there's 2 episodes left in this season.
That's right.
It's and they're saying it's an anthology series.
That's right. Yeah. So essentially, this is based on one of Simon's books, and he very much wanted to do a close-ended thing and kind of just do justice to that book. And so, what's really cool about the show is that by the last episode, everything is kind of final. There's no cliffhanger or anything, and all those stories are kind of tied up. And then if we do another season, it would be set in a completely different world, and we would play new characters.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So the idea was kind of like, since Daniel had played the same character for so long, but he was dying to do something in television because there's so much cool stuff happening, they kind of found this way where they were like, we'll just reset it each year. So there's an idea that Simon has talked about. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about for what the second season would be, but it honestly it's so different from this one. And we all play completely different characters. So if we get to do it, I think it'll be really cool.
That's awesome.
And there will be some kind of through line between all of them. But yeah, it's completely set in a new world with none of us playing what we were playing here. So
very interesting. Yeah. No, the anthology thing is really kind of picking up, I think. And so
yeah, and what's cool is I don't think I've seen it that much in comedy. Like the only example I have for something like this is like American Horror Story, where like a lot of the cast stays the same, but you just reset it. But yeah, I couldn't really think of one for comedy where each season the same like players come back and do something completely different. So and then that one would also be kind of close ended, and it would just be like one set story. So it's exciting. That
is very exciting. Well, yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, Miracle Workers, it's on TBS. You can get it on demand or online.
That's right.
Catch up before the season, before the finale for which is this Tuesday night.
Yes.
At 10:30 Eastern, I think.
Yes.
And it's really funny, so I do highly recommend it. Karan, thank you so much for coming by.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.